Abduction by Peg Carrot, Chapter 16. Matt's days crept slowly by. He missed Mom, and Bonnie, and Pookie. He wondered where Mom and Bonnie were now. In a graveyard someplace? He cried himself to sleep every night. Denny placed and received calls all day long and late into the night. He said things like, $2,000 on Dandy Dancer to show, or $500 on Bradshaw in 7. Grandma and Grandpa didn't call. Some days Denny went wildly happy, singing and urging Matt to play with his new toys. Other days, Denny practically snapped Matt's head off for walking through the room. On one of the good days, he brought Matt a tennis ball. Then, had a fit when Matt threw it against the back of the couch. He said the thump of the ball on the couch got on his nerves. He often left Matt alone, but never for more than an hour or so. When Denny was gone, Matt always practiced his pitching by throwing the tennis ball as hard as he could at the back of the couch, over and over. Matt wished he could be outside at home, throwing against the garage door. Better yet, he'd like to practice again with a real baseball, pitching to Bonnie. One day, when Denny was laughing and excited, he asked Matt what he'd like to do. Something special, Denny said. Something you always wanted to do. Ride to the top of the Space Needle? Visit the zoo? Matt didn't have to think long. I want to go to a Mariners baseball game, he said. Denny thought for a moment. You got it, he said. When he came home that afternoon, he showed Matt 2 tickets. We're going Saturday afternoon, he said. After the game, we'll take the ferry to Bainbridge. You're going to meet your Uncle Winston, your Aunt Celia, and your cousins Thomas and Tim. I have cousins? 2 boys your age. Their house is right on the beach. We'll stay there overnight. For the first time since he learned about Mom and Bonnie's accident, Matt felt a glimmer of happiness. He was going to a game at Safeco Field. He was going to a sleepover with 2 boys his own age. He would take his new mitt. Maybe the boys liked to play catch. Maybe he would even snag a fly ball at the game. As the week wore on, Denny's crabby times came more and more often. On Friday afternoon, he put all the movies and the DVD player in a big box. He put Matt's new baseball glove and the Walkman in the box, too. What are you doing? Matt asked. Taking these back. They're no good. What's wrong with them? I haven't even caught a ball in the mitt yet. I'm going to take it to the game tomorrow. Don't argue with me. I'm returning all this stuff and getting a refund. Denny's eyes flashed with anger as he stomped about. He unplugged the PlayStation and grabbed all the video games, tossing them in the box. Matt said no more. He had quickly learned not to talk during Denny's bad moods. He knew Denny didn't like him any more than he liked Denny. And sometimes, Denny acted furious with him for no reason. Most of the time, Matt felt as if Denny wished Matt were at any place except his apartment. Denny had not hurt Matt, but Matt sensed that it could happen. Denny's anger flared easily, and Matt knew Denny always carried the small handgun he'd shown Matt in the car. The gun made Matt uneasy, even though Denny never mentioned it. Mom had warned Matt about guns. Never pick one up, she told him. If a friend shows you a gun, leave. Call me, and I'll come get you. Mom wouldn't like Matt living with someone who took a gun everywhere, but Mom wasn't here to object. He couldn't call her. She couldn't come to take Matt home. I'll be back in a little while, Denny said. He carried the box out, slamming the door behind him. Matt looked around the room. He didn't care about losing the movies. He hadn't liked most of them anyway. Instead of animated Disney films and other G-rated movies, Denny had bought movies with lots of fighting and killing and car crashes. Matt covered his eyes during the car crash scenes. They made him think about the wreck that killed Mom and Bonnie. He didn't mind losing the PlayStation either. It frustrated him because he couldn't read the directions and Denny never took the time to show him how to play. When Matt tried to do the games on his own, he didn't get very far. He suspected they were intended for people older than 6. None of the board games had been opened because Denny wouldn't play them with Matt, and it was no fun alone. He wished he could have kept the baseball mitt, though. He had worn it when he'd practiced pitching. When Denny was home and Matt could throw the ball, he still kept the mitt on his hands for hours, pretending to pitch for the Mariners. He had planned to take it with him to the game tomorrow. A new worry seized Matt. What if Denny returned the baseball tickets too? What if they didn't take the ferry to the beach house tomorrow? Matt went into Denny's bedroom and looked on the dresser top where he had seen Denny drop the tickets. Lottery tickets with their numbers scratched off littered the dresser. He saw no baseball tickets. Matt decided if Denny didn't take him to the ball game, he would run away. I can't run away without money for food, Matt thought. He dragged a chair over to the refrigerator, climbed up, and opened the freezer section. I won't take all the money, he decided. If I only take part, he might not notice it's gone. He listened for the front door to click open as he took out the ice cream carton and started prying off the lid. He didn't want to think about what would happen if Denny came back and caught him stealing money. When the lid popped off, it slipped out of his hands and dropped to the floor. Matt scrambled off the chair, grabbed the lid, and looked inside the carton. Empty. Matt climbed back on the chair and looked in the freezer, thinking he'd opened the wrong ice cream container. But it was the only one. He couldn't believe it. A few days ago, Denny had put a thick stack of money in here. What had happened to all of it? This explained why Denny took all the toys back. He needed the money he'd paid for them. Matt replaced an empty carton in the freezer and returned the chair. He couldn't run away when he didn't have any money. He'd starve. Matt sat on the couch and played the list game. He closed his eyes and tried to remember everything he could about his mother and his sister and his dog. He said the list to himself every night before he went to sleep. He had made up lists of the stories Mom had read to him, the songs she sang, her clothes. He had one list of all the games Bonnie played with him. His favorite was when she pretended to be a catcher, and he was a pitcher who threw fastballs. 98 miles an hour, Bonnie would say when she caught a ball. Another zinger! It used to make him laugh, but remembering made him sad. He always ended up crying when he played the list game, but he knew it was important not to forget his family. Mom liked flowers, Matt thought, and music. She taught me the words to a lot of songs like Down by the Station early in the morning and I've been working on the railroad. She liked to drink tea and do cross-stitch. Best of all, she liked to have Matt sit on her lap while she read Little Bear, or Officer Buckle and Gloria, or Blueberries for Sal to him. Bonnie liked to make beaded bracelets and run races with her track team, and play her clarinet in the school band. She let Pookie sleep on her bed. Bonnie liked cinnamon rolls and ice cream. Matt wished he hadn't eaten all the strawberry ice cream the last time they had it. If he had known Bonnie was going to be killed in a car wreck, he would have left the ice cream for her and not eaten a single spoonful. Pookie's list was shorter. He liked to be petted, and he liked chew toys, and he liked to sleep in the sun. Matt always put Pookie last in the list game, because he hoped he might get Pookie back someday. Pookie wasn't killed in the crash. Maybe some nice people found Pookie at Marymore Park, and someday Matt would see them walking him on a leash, and Matt would run to Pookie and hug him, and Pookie would be so excited and happy that the people would know he was really Matt's dog. Denny returned, talking on the phone as he entered. He seemed calmer, but Matt pretended to be asleep. Then he shook his shoulder. I bought pizza, he said. Matt opened his eyes and sniffed the cheese and tomato smell. You said we couldn't afford pizza anymore. I got my money back for all those games. One clerk didn't give me a full refund on the open movies, but I made such a stink she caved in. Matt was glad he hadn't been there. Are we still going to the baseball game tomorrow? He asked. I said we were going, didn't I? I thought maybe you took the tickets back. I promised my kid we'd go to a ball game, and I always tell the truth. Besides, they're not refundable. And then we're going to ride the ferry and meet my cousins? Your cousins and your aunt and uncle, Denny said. There's only one thing. What? You're going to have black hair and wear glasses tomorrow. I am? Why? Because Thomas and Tim have dark hair, and they wear glasses. This is a family reunion, and everybody's supposed to look alike for the pictures. Oh. Denny opened a drawer and removed a small pair of eyeglasses with wire rims. Here, try them on. Matt put the glasses on and looked through the lenses. Everything looks the same, he said. It's clear glass. It won't change the way you see. How's my hair going to get black? Denny grinned. Shoe polish. We'll do it in the morning. The next morning, Matt watched in the mirror as Denny applied black shoe polish to Matt's blonde hair. Denny stroked it on slowly, careful not to get any color on Matt's ears or neck. This is how movie stars get ready, Denny said. Matt giggled. He looked so different. Even Stanley wouldn't know him. When all his hair was black, Matt put on the glasses. I don't look like me, he said. The red and gold Hawaiian print shirt Denny had bought him was unlike anything in Matt's closet at home. Matt never chose shirts with buttons. He liked the new pants, though, with their deep pockets on both legs. Now, all you need is a new name, Denny said. What's wrong with Matt? Not a thing. But all the other kids have names that start with a T. Thomas and Tim. You need a T name, too. For always? You're going to be Travis. Matt thought about that. I'll be Travis for the weekend, he said. Then I want to be Matt again. He didn't understand why Denny wanted him to be exactly like his cousins. Mom had always said every person is unique and we should celebrate our differences. But Matt didn't say so. He didn't want to take any chances on making Denny angry today. Matt would have dyed his hair pink if he called himself Doofus, if that's what it took to go to a Mariners game, a ferry ride, and a sleepover with 2 other boys.